Okay, hello. So my name is Magnus. So we're going to talk about Human Resources 4.0. And before coming here, I asked what you would like to know about. And Kadri is told that talk something practical that you have actually done. So I'm going to focus on that and spice it up a bit, what's going on in the world, trends, and so on. So I work as a product manager at Proekspert, and I'm mostly focused on digital products. And design is also something that I'm very enthusiastic about. So service design, each service actually starts with a service design, then you turn it into a product, and to make it something that actually is needed by the users, and so on. And also, I'm a practitioner of lean agile approaches, and helping teams in Proekspert to adopt these practices, to improve on those. I'm also a HR enthusiast, so this is my topic for today. And last week, I founded a company, and our product is Blue Monday, and we're going to talk about that one as well. So, but founding a company in Estonia, we are a digital nation. We can do it in 18 minutes, and that's a world record. But from my experience, I can tell that if something goes wrong, for our case, it was that the name was a bit something that was not suitable. Then it went to the regular processing, and it took 8 days. So it kind of stopped us a bit. And what's really interesting that now, when I founded the company, banks are approaching me. So apparently they get to know that you have founded the company, and then first one was the LHV and the Swedbank, and all the other banks follow behind. And now, when everybody has contacted me, saying yesterday I was contacted by Nordea, which is one of the biggest banks in Scandinavia, and they are really, really slow, so I have that kind of experience as well. It's kind of reminds me of the picture or a joke about different internet browsers, that browsers are asked that, who are we? We are browsers. What do we want? We want faster internet. And then some time goes on, and then Internet Explorer says, like, browsers. But anyway, this is an intro slide. So it stands Human R 4.0. So the H is for human. R could mean, like, traditionally it's resources, but nevertheless, we're talking about people, talking about the most valuable asset in the company. So I could say that maybe the R could stand for relations. R could also stand for respect. And I actually like the respect part in the R word. And let's talk about trends and observations. So the first obvious trend is the gamification. I grew up playing computer games, and not going to talk about millennials, but there are many people that grew up playing computer games. And you get really fast feedback from there. You have missions. You have clear purpose. You are driving yourself towards the achievement unlocked feeling. But when you think about the regular company setting, then companies tend to fail in that achievement unlocked feeling. Maybe this is something we can adopt. I've talked to different people about this idea, and everybody has ideas how to implement it in their company. And I would actually like us to move into that field in the business setting as well. I'm not sure how easily doable it is. Of course, it has many obstacles and so on. But when you think that today is 2017, and quite soon companies will hire people that per year starts with 2. So it's kind of a logical approach that something has to change. But this is what regular companies are offering today. or before it was strict hierarchies, all the information moved only through managers. You get your work tasks from the managers and so on. And how things are is that people form project teams, they are doing different things at the same time. Information is moving in from various sources, and this is kind of okay. We don't have those very strict hierarchies anymore, maybe only in Germany and bigger countries as such in Central Europe. But thinking about the Nordic region that we are in, then this is something that we already have in place today. Of course, how things actually work is a bit different. We need independent teams that work only dedicatedly on one thing and one thing only to get the best output to a product or a service or whatever is currently in hand. And if you have independent teams and so on, then we need shared values and culture. So company needs to have an identity. And when I actually think about Proekspert that I'm working in, then our identity is that we are all engineers. So we have a 25-year history, and we started as an engineers company, and we still have that identity. And this is something that all companies need to think about. Startups are really good at that. They created identity, and they have that thing already. So this is very, very critical. And also information flow needs to happen between those independent teams about company goals and things as such. And in general, when we look at the mega trends, it seems to me at least that we have a shift to agile organization, strict control-based idea is changing into trust. So you need to trust your people. For example, let's take Amazon example. Amazon is really big and successful company, and the way things are there is that Jeff Bezos is their CEO, obviously a really, really smart person, but he has decided that he will not take all the decisions on themselves. And for example, they have the division that does movie productioning and so on, and that last year they generated 2 billion of revenue. And it was an example that Jeff Bezos himself put out there that if those people are coming to me and ask for my approval, then something is wrong. They obviously know what they are doing, so who am I to say no? So I can only say yes, so why do we need me in this place to make this decision at all? So this is an example. And once you shift towards trust, then transparency is what follows. Or actually, this is actually very important that you create this transparency. It doesn't follow on its own. And transparency means information transparency, knowledge, and so on. Information, how company is doing, what are the goals. Google has very good methodologies for that called OKRs. So this is slowly replacing KPIs. And also on an individual level, what different teams are doing. So this is very, very important. And learning as such. So having talked to different companies don't bash their employees if they fail. So this is something that is slowly starting to happen. So this is okay. If you turn failure into learning, then it's okay. If not, then something is wrong. And centralized management will be replaced by holacracy. So it's basically purpose-driven self-management. And this could mean self-management on a personal level, me as a team member, or on a team level, us as a team. So we actually know best what to do. We can decide on our own. We don't need managers to take decisions on behalf of us. And since I want to talk about practical stuff, I'm talking about Human Resources 4.0 at Proekspert. So Proekspert is a technology expert and product development partner, and we're currently focusing on data science, Industry 4.0, and future technologies. And also, marketing department said that give some good example of Proekspert as well, and so every fourth beer in the world is bottled using our technology. So basically this is embedded software. This is used in production lines that create or produce those beers. So this kind of example. But all in all, we are famous for our bossless culture. 4 years ago, we turned into a bossless company. So what it means that when we look at the picture, then we have the white circle, and everything that is in between, inside that circle, is our core business. Is something that we have customer there, we have people and teams there, and they are equally important. We started firstly as the customer is the most important thing or person, but as you can see that the customer cannot be a king all the time. So for us, people and customer are equally as important. And the white circle represents the support team. So in a sense, we are seeing our support services as something that they provide services to internally, to employees, to teams, and services need to be so good that employees want to use them. So this is not mandatory. You don't have to use HR services. You don't have to use different IT services. You can create things on your own. But if the services are so good internally, not only externally what we offer to customers, then we create the demand internally. And this is something that is very interesting for us. And also the service thinking allows us to make the service providers to promote their service as well. And all this autonomy and bossless culture ended up 4 years ago with a very big jump in customer satisfaction. So before the satisfaction was 7 point something, and those that are familiar with the Net Promoter Score framework, so this is basically meh, this is whatever. And we made a jump to 9, so this is awesome, basically. And we have managed to keep that number. So this is really impressive. And one example about this bossless culture, autonomy, is that this is Estonia. We have offices in 4 different locations. Tallinn and Tartu are the biggest ones, but then again we have an office in Pärnu and in Saaremaa on an island. And those 2 last offices, the smaller ones, came by the initiative of our own people. So we created this kind of rule that if you have 5 employees that want to work somewhere else and create a new office somewhere, then 5 is the point that actually makes sense. So if you have under 5 people, then you don't have this office feeling. You are basically as if you were working from home. So 5 is like a critical level in amount of people. And also it pays off economically. So those offices were actually initiated by our own employees. Nobody could say no. And now we have offices there, and people are really happy. They can move from the capital to a smaller island, for example, like Saaremaa, and raise their kids where they actually grew up. So this is very important. And this is our work-life philosophy. So this is a very powerful metaphor. It's a cycle of the seasons or a year. So we have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And when we onboard new employees, then everybody starts in the spring. People are actually hired to a specific team. We already know what they are going to do. So they need support and encouragement from the company. They need mentorship. They need to learn really fast how things are here. and we already, for example, offer this kind of program from them that they can meet all the service providers like that was in the picture before in 2 weeks. So this is very, very rapid thing. So you are onboarded really fast. Of course, on the company level, it is quite costly. And for us, the new employees pay off in 9 months, but this is worth it. Of course, the recruitment is very, very important that you hire the right people. So, and the summer is that you are pushed into a team. You start working in a team, and then you need to grow to be a team member, and you need to have a synergy with the team. And from company, you need information and that kind of support. And autumn is when you are ripe. You are most productive in that team as an individual, and work is very motivating to you, and you are growing professionally. So, but still, you might need mentorship or support. And what usually doesn't follow in most companies is the winter. So you are not maybe offered like this feedback or asked if you want to do something else or whatnot, or maybe change roles or yeah. So this is very important to us that if this current project is not satisfying for you, then you can change your career path. You can do whatever and start a new cycle. And I've recently heard a story of one guy that actually wanted to change. He was a developer, wanted to be a product person, and he couldn't do that in his company. So he left to another company, and he was really, really excited about the stuff. He learned all the stuff on his own. He was really good at this product thing. And he needed to go to other company and prove himself there just to come back. So this is a kind of weird thing. Okay, but when we think about the Proekspert example, so we have created this totally different culture, and we have run into obstacles that we don't have right tools for that to implement that kind of culture. To do that change. So we have been looking for different products around the world, and we couldn't find anything that was suitable for us. So actually our HR department cried out for help, so we need something. And I was actually the one that was very interested in this stuff, so I jumped on board. We started thinking that maybe we can create some internal tools on our own to support that new kind of culture. And one of those products was HappyMe, which is a performance review tool. And I created this together with Tiina Saar, and she's also works in Proekspert as work happiness advocate, and she's a really, really top-notch expert in that field, really famous in Estonia. And this is her 6th book that she just published, so she really knows her stuff. And the thing that we tackled was the annual performance review. That the problem is that in most companies it is very, very employer specific. It only focuses on the employer side, but less to the employee side. So we kind of wanted to turn that around, like. How can we do it that the performance review, the annual review, is not the place that you can only ask for a raise, which is a very, very common thing, but that it would give back to you something else as well. So we created this tool that has different features, for example, this career analysis, peer review, and business health measurement. But the main idea behind it was that we are directing this product to knowledge workers. And I think most of you know what knowledge worker is, so don't need to explain that here. The ones that have knowledge, mostly white-collar jobs, of course, engineers and so on. But when you think about different IT companies, then we have a really tough competition for knowledge workers. So these are really, really in high demand and all over the world. And companies need to go an extra mile to keep and motivate their people. And for me, I kind of want to identify the strength of an organization is that place where employees are grown. So each person, even if they decide to leave eventually, they need to be better than they came for us. So need to invest in our people, grow them. So this is the strength of an organization for me. And it's quite surprising that many organizations are not thinking like this, or at least not practicing anything like this. But this definition, I also have a problem with this kind of definition, that it's a white-collar jobs, and Japanese knew it all along that all employees are knowledge workers. So I really, really believe that as well. And this is a picture of a supermarket chain in Estonia, Rimi, and I'm not saying anything specifically about this chain. I really like this chain. I go there all the time, but still, I'm questioning myself: are the employees there considered to be knowledge workers? Are they treated with the same respect that the engineers are treated? Because they are in a really, really high demand as well for now, when companies have not taken those dramatic leaps into automation and so on yet. So, and this, my opinion matters, is really, really important for knowledge workers. And I personally believe that all employees are knowledge workers, so let's start treating all employees as such from now on. And I was talking about this tool, then I need to talk about personalization as well. So personalization is something that users of different products are really looking for nowadays. So for example, this Fits Me example, this is a Estonian company that wants to do like tailor-made online purchases stuff. So you actually can see how things are looking when you are buying something, like all your measurements are taken into account. So this is one example. Obviously, we have big corporations like Facebook and Google, so they know all things about you. And people are, on the other hand, really expecting that if we create services, then we take that into account, that since you already know that much about me, then why are you not using it? Why aren't you creating a personalized experience for me, just for me, what I need right now? And for Google and Facebook, it's okay, they can do that. But there are many other big companies and in the traditional industries, not technology sector, that cannot do this. But on the other hand, customers are still expecting it, that they can do it. So this has been a challenge for me as well, working with different customers in my career. And when we created HappyMe, this is also something that we took into account, that this is a very, very important aspect. And I'm not going to talk about only the product, but the more important part is the process behind it. So I guess I should focus mostly on that. So in general, we are doing annual reviews once a year, or some companies are doing it twice a year. So this is kind of slow food. And those are very inconvenient as well for the people, because we ask the wrong questions, basically. So once we turned that around to be employee-specific, then we started ask about questions that actually matter to you. For example, this picture, this is a wheel of virtues or values, and this was developed by Norman Amundsen, which is a Canadian psychologist and a career professor. And this is just one example that we talked with many different psychologists, what's actually important to people when they think about their work life, and try to implement as much as scientifically backed the stuff there in the product that we could. And in this specific example, people are asked to select 3 values when they think about their employer, what 3 values are important for them. Not for the employer, but in general, what 3 values are important for them. And after that, we asked them to think how my current employer is helping, is providing me those values, that are they in sync what the company values are. And if not, that is there anything we can do about it? So we asked those kind of directing questions, and very interesting things come out of there. And if the value is the satisfaction with the value or what company is offering is not that high, then we have a problem and we need to do something. But we get the information, and then we can build something on top of that. Also, the second part was the 360 feedback that we integrated into this product. Traditionally, companies are doing that, but they do it on paper, and it takes a lot of time. These are very, very problematic things. If you gather so much information on paper, you start processing it, it takes a long time. So we didn't only want to digitize this, but we wanted to digitalize this. The difference, according to McKinsey, is that, for example, when you think about governments, we have different forms, and if you push those online and they remain the same, this is like digitation, or nothing changes. You are just putting analog thing to digital. But if you want to go extra mile and think about digitalization, then this is something that needs to happen, that we rethink the whole concept behind it. Like if you would start a new company today, how we would do it, giving the possibilities we have today, and so on. But all in all, this 360 feedback is quite interesting thing, and it provides direct insight, like what you are thinking, what your peers are thinking, and this is very, very interesting thing to have. And the third thing is the job crafting that we added to this specific software. And the logic behind it is that we have good, bad, and great work. So if we start analyzing our current work things, then without analyzing the work-related role is quite problematic. Up to 40% of your duties may seem disturbing, and only 20% great. So ideal situation is that the pyramid should be the other way around, that you really enjoy 40% of your assignments, and there might be like 20% something that is disturbing to you. But even if we have the ideal pyramid, then why stop there? It's also a good question. And let's do this exercise. Maybe you can all think of one thing that really disturbs you when you think about your job. Some assignment or something. So if you have that in mind, then would you think that it's realistic to give it to somebody else? Because there's always somebody that actually would love to do that. But raise your hand if you think that this is realistic, that I can do it. So, or how would you feel if this would happen? That somebody would be there to do that thing that you actually makes you disturbingly dissatisfied, but if there would be somebody that would do it. So these are the things that we ask questions about. And all in all, the process takes less than 30 minutes, so this is also interesting. But we are also working on version 2, so process-wise, the process was still the same, that we did annual performance review. Yes, we made the input collection really, really cool, and it was still followed by actual development talk or this 1-hour discussion with somebody. And the input that you were giving was still, not even everything was discussed during the interview. So why should we waste that much of time if the person thinks about this stuff and then nothing really happens? So what we are doing in version 2, that we want to actually turn the dissatifaction into actions. Yeah. So basically, once we collect the information, then we already know what's problematic and what's good. And what's good needs to be celebrated. So obviously this is, makes sense, but why aren't we doing it? And dissatification, we are turning it into action. So basically we are automatically creating a plan for you to look at. So these are the things that you could improve to increase your satisfaction. And basically this performance review interview is now replaced with going through your list. So imagine that. So this is something that we are working on, and we will release that by the end of this month. And we already have many companies that are using this product. So this is something very interesting for me. And the main idea that actually came from this, that we still couldn't tackle all the problems, since process-wise we are doing those surveys once or twice a year, and this is not enough. So we actually created a new product, and this product is directing the satisfaction surveys. So when you think about the satisfaction surveys in your organization, then how do you feel about those? So we have talked with many different companies, and we know from our own experience as well that this is very problematic. The satisfaction surveys happen at best once a year, and recently talked with a big Germanese company that actually wants to use our product, and they said that they have 100,000 employees, and this is such a big amount of people that they cannot even do it once a year, they're doing it twice a year. But I think people are dissatisfied at the meantime as well. So can we do it more rapidly to measure the satisfaction and turn it into something that we can improve all along? So we started to think about different concepts, what could we do? And we tried those out. We created proof of concepts for different ideas to improve this. And in the end, the winner was a mobile app. So this is the Blue Monday mobile app, and this is directed to the employee. So the idea is that you select, in general, is something good happening or bad happening, and then we are asking you about the category. So colleagues, job success, processes, or personal life. And we gathered those categories talking to, again, with different scientists, psychologists, and these are actually the main categories we have. Of course, when you think about the bosses, those are also colleagues, and you can give feedback really fast. And if you want, you can also enter a comment. And we are also sending push notification once a day, so that you would actually memorize, or actually could be notified that to give feedback. And if you don't give feedback fast enough, then you start forgetting things, and good things as well. So, but this is just for collecting information. This is very convenient for employees. It only takes like 5 minutes a day or something, and we send a notification at the end of the day. You can use it all the time if you want, during the day as well, but it's not mandatory. But the real value comes from data. And we're providing different analysis things to companies based on that data. And since we piloted with our first customers only this week, then we haven't got many ideas yet from my users that we could implement right away. But we try to create those kind of reports that are actually important to our users. And this is what the company gets. But also, question is that what do you get if you enter those emotions there in the app? And for that, we offer best practice thing called Retrospectives. So this is a meeting that you have with your team twice a month, so bi-weekly. And takes like one hour. Everybody comes together. They can review the app, what has been going on. And we're doing it very, very simply. We have post-its. So what's positive, what's negative, what has happened. At the start of this session, the host of the event shows the graphs of how your team is doing, how the company is doing, how other teams are doing. So this is a warm-up. And then we take 5 minutes to fill up those post-its, positive and negative aspects, pluses and minuses. And everybody goes to the board and tells what they have written down. So it's not mandatory to write down everything that you have in the app, but so you can choose. And later, the host of the event, when everybody has presented their ideas or problems, mostly they are process-related things or those little things that actually can be improved right now. And we are actually grouping those together, those that are similar, and we select top three of those, and we start discussing the negative things, that how can we do or what can we do. It's not what the managers can do if we are lucky, but what we can do actually ourselves. And there's always something that we can do. So we generate ideas, we map the impediments, we map things that are obstacles to us, and we start solving those, and this is where the actual value happens. And of course, we don't end that meeting in a negative side. We also try to celebrate what's good and so on. But all in all, it creates an engagement culture. So people are engaged, they can take action, they can say what's bugging them, and we can do improvements, small little improvements. And if you think the initial idea was the satisfaction survey, that happens once or twice a year, then imagine the info you get there, you get the only very, very big changes. And this is very problematic for the organization. If you start implementing big changes, it creates chaos, it creates all those nasty things you don't want. So what you want to do is you want to implement small changes all the time. But the philosophy behind that app and this process is we're actually targeting green business, so eco-friendly, or how should we call them? And if you think about yourself or your colleague or somebody that's working in a company, how much of the life energy is that person actually putting into his or her work? And when you think about your employer, then obviously the job contract is done for 100%. But this doesn't happen. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but this is caused by different things, that the situation is changing so fastly all the time. People need to learn. So the learning ability might cause this, and lack of knowledge or skills. So this needs continuous improvement. So so we could get 100% out of you. And this is something that you would like to give if the conditions are excellent. But for me, the biggest problem with this eco or green thing is the waste. So we have a lot of waste. The waste might come from dysfunctional processes. So this is something that we can easily change little by little, having this kind of specific retro environment. The info flow might be problematic, and even when we think about health illiteracy, so you as a person, are you healthy? Are you going to sleep early enough, or are you doing something else until, I don't know, 2 o'clock, and then in the morning when you show up, it's proved that it's like you have a concussion or something. You are not productive. But it also maybe if you have such a thing, or then yeah. So we want to eliminate waste or at least lower it. And some final thoughts. So having worked with that specific field for a couple of years now already, I personally think that HR 4.0 is not coming from the HR department. And I can, so this is something that's everyone's business, to create that culture, to improve the culture, to make the change happen. And I'm also seeing it on this Blue Monday product, that it's really, really popular and everybody wants to have it. So, and we are approached by actual teams or team members by themselves. This is not coming from the HR. So if there's something out there that could help you on your own, then you don't need to wait for the HR department. So this kind of change is something that comes not top down, but bottom up. And also for me, when I talked about this service side thinking about internal services as well, and HR is one of those, then those kind of services should not be mandatory. But the service has to be excellent and so good that you would actually want to use it voluntarily. So, thank you.
There are some questions as well. From Sander, have you experienced some other really cool company cultures, and maybe you can elaborate on them?
Yep. Actually, I wanted to talk about it, but my favorite is Spotify. That's actually doing similar kind of things. But many new companies, once they start, are creating those bossless cultures and so on. That people are self-motivated, they have a clear purpose, and they can do meaningful jobs. So that's very important. But my personal is Spotify.
What's special about Spotify?
Oh, everything. I really like that they have this, again, this bossless culture, that you can take action. You are working on your product or your specific thing, and you are empowered to do whatever you want. Obviously, you should back it up with feedback from your users or something, because if you want autonomy, you need to take responsibility, and this is also a very important aspect.
Another question about responsibility.
Yep.
Who takes it in case something goes wrong in a bossless team?
In our cases, the team is held responsible in general. So I don't know if it answers your questions, but we haven't had very big fails. So of course somebody has asked me, like, okay, if someone messes up, I can fire this person, but do you fire the whole team, or what happens? And then we need to really think about this learning aspect. Like, if you fail in even intentionally or unintentionally, then have you learned something about this? And of course we have support teams to make sure that this does not happen. And we also have the visibility part, so we have all those internal indicators to show us that something might go wrong, so we can do something before something bad actually happens.
Also, hailing from Proekspert myself, I can elaborate a little as well. I think it also reflects the recruitment culture. Every time we have had some issues in teams, actually there is at least one person who steps up and takes the responsibility, this leader sort of person who manages to get everything back on track again. So far we have had only good experiences. One more question from here. What do you think are the biggest barriers in the digitization of HR at the moment?
Well, sort of. It feels that everybody understands, all the different companies that have been out there for a while, that the way that things are now, this is not something that can continue. But there is a lack of knowledge what to do. So how could we do something differently? And so just you don't know how to do it yet. You know that this is not working for us anymore, but you don't know how can you improve this. And of course, in our case, it was the tools as well. And this is something that we are experiencing while talking with different companies. Yeah.
And the last question before lunch.
Hello, my question is also about the recruiting culture, and you said that it's very important that how do you formulate, the right people are recruited. How do you make sure that you get the right people?
Well, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with recruiting. Of course, you can do tests and so on. Yeah. If somebody else could answer this, then it's okay by me.
Okay, one last question.
Thank you for presentation. It was very interesting. I'm wondering about limitations of these principles you were talking about. I can hardly imagine that it could be possible to implement for big companies with a conveyor things like ABB or Siemens or something. Because as far as I understand, this is good for small companies or companies like Shopify who selling intangible products. So what about limitations? How you see limitations of this? Because for me, it's obviously not for everyone. Thank you.
Yep. So you cannot force those to be used. So for example, like I said, we are given this Blue Monday product. We are actually discussing right now with a very, very big German company, and they found us. We didn't found them, and they have discovered the same, that they need to do something about this. So there needs to be some enthusiast to lead this, and this person specifically is a group level person. So, and of course, having these kind of things in a big organization is hard, and I personally think that we as a small starting company are not ready yet to provide services for such a big company, but nevertheless we are seeing if we can do something together and we are doing small pilots at first, so it makes sense to try those out on a smaller scale once you start implementing it to a big scale. And this is our current idea or approach behind this. But all in all, the ideas that we presented to them and how these things works, then they said that this is exactly what they're thinking the same way. So it's a matter of like, can we do it in this organization, and what kind of limitations we have as an organization. Yeah, technical and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.